All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Toni Riley. I'm the Associate Vice President for Undergraduate Admissions at Illinois Tech. And many of you are still coming into the room. So we're going to make sure that we get everyone in before we get fully started. We're really excited that you're able to join us for this parent chat. We would normally be welcoming you on campus, so it's great to see you and interact with you in this virtual space. We know that many of you probably have a lot of Zoom fatigue or Google Hangout fatigue or whatever your video platform has been lately. So we have structured this a little bit different just to be really efficient with the questions that you've submitted ahead of time and hopefully disseminate as much information as we possibly can during this time. I should also let you know that we're recording this session, but we're not recording any of your images. But we're going to be able to post this a little bit later. So if parents need to watch it after the fact, or even some of our students, then we'll definitely do that. So welcome to our parent and staff chat. I do want to take a moment, you've received the email this morning so you know who's on our staff chat, but I do want to take a moment and let our other panel presenters say hi and introduce themselves. And so we'll do that in just a moment. But before we move on to that, I want to explain how the panel format will work. So it's a little bit different. So we had so many parents submit a lot of questions beforehand that we've already kind of structured it to where each area will go in order. And so we'll have our AVPs, our Dean of Students, all of our folks from these different areas kind of talk about a little bit about their area, top tips for you as parents and what to be thinking about right now as your student is coming in for the fall. And then we'll also be answering those questions by area that you submitted. I do want to let you know that it's likely we can't answer all of the questions that were submitted in this 1 hour time frame. However, we have your information and we will be following up with you one-on-one. You'll likely hear from your student's admission counselor, and we'll still be answering all of your questions, even if we can't do that in a live format. So if you want to chat in your questions while we're presenting, feel free to do that. And if we can't answer it live, we will absolutely follow up with you to make sure that you get that question answered. So one of the things I want to kick off with is many of you might be wondering, what are some immediate changes that perhaps we have made given COVID-19? I do hope that all of you are staying safe and getting through this really stressful time. And so I do want to update you on some changes that we made right off the bat. So while we're still sticking with our May 1 deposit deadline, what we are doing is making that deposit refundable. So that's new this year, where that deposit is refundable in case something changes with a student. However, we're hoping if something is changing with you and your student post May 1, that you'll revisit with your admission counselor if there's something around your finances that are making you a little bit hesitant about deciding where your student's going to enroll this fall. And so we've had some questions from parents around deferrals as well. So the deposit is going to be refundable. And also we're offering extensions kind of on a case-by-case basis, recognizing that every family is in a slightly different situation. So if you do need more time beyond May 1, please have your student reach out to their admission counselor, and we will absolutely put an extension in the system for you on your student's application. We will still hold their spot for fall, no problem, and give you guys the extra time that you need. So that's absolutely available. The other thing I wanted to direct you to, just so that you know at large kind of how we are providing information around COVID-19 right now and related to IIT, hopefully you all can see my screen that I'm sharing right now. And so I'm just on the general admission website for Illinois Tech, or you could be on the main Illinois Tech website. And hopefully all of you can see here at the top, like a lot of universities, we've made this very front and center, so you can click here at any time to learn more information up to the date of what the university is doing related to COVID-19 planning, contingency planning, and it also has a list of all of the communications that we've sent out to date to our campus community, so you can kind of get a little bit more information there. I also want to point you to the undergraduate admissions website. So, you know, I mentioned that May 1 deadline is, or the deposit is refundable. And so what we've done is to make it a little bit easier for admitted students and also parents and guardians to access how this relates to their students in particular who are in the admitted stage pre-enrollment versus current students. We've created right here an FAQ just for undergraduate admissions so that you can see how this affects you and your students. So there's a section right here just for admitted students for fall of 2020. So I just wanted to make sure that you know where those resources are, and also just at large kind of knowing some of the things that we've done as an institution is offer online tutoring sessions for our current students. So we have an academic resource center, so they've gone completely online. We have online counseling sessions that we've offered through our student health and wellness. Things like we've contracted with a nearby hotel, and that's where we're allowing students that need to be quarantined to have a hotel experience versus being in our res halls. And then the alumni and advancement office have been wonderful and set up a Hawks for Hawks fund. So we've had a lot of alumni and even current students and parents that have been donating to this fund. And it's specifically going directly to help students in need right now. And then on top of that, we're reallocating some money in financial aid and working out right now how we can move some work study money over to grant study money. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Each area will talk a little bit about some of the things that we've already done for our current student community, our faculty, our staff, and also what we're planning for our incoming class for this fall. And of course, I have to mention, among all of these things, our president last Friday actually kicked off a 60-hour dance party. He DJ'd the first couple of hours. Apparently he used to be a DJ back in his days in Scotland. And so a lot of it was from his own vinyl collection. So I can't forget the fun stuff that's obviously happening as well to support students. But I know that our campus life and our res hall life, we'll talk about that a little bit later. So that's just kind of an introduction to kind of the format, what we're doing, what we have done. The last thing I'm going to show you how to navigate is on our website, because we're going to talk about a lot of information today, but I do want you to know that when you're on our website, if you go right to the resources for dropdown, there's a tab for admitted students and there's a tab for parents and families. So you can click on either of these and it really does kind of walk you through the process of what's next. So I'm just going to click on the admitted students tab just briefly and kind of show you, because a lot of questions that were submitted by parents were things like, how does my student get registered? How do they connect with their advisor? You know, when is the next orientation? When are the next events? So when you're on this website, either for parents or students, you can see how we're hosting a lot of virtual events in the next few days. You can register. There's a lot of information here. It talks about how to submit their deposit. So a lot of great information on both of these websites. So I wanted to make sure that you know where to find those. And then what I'll be doing while each of the panel members are speaking, I'll kind of be navigating to the website that they're referencing if applicable, so you can kind of visualize that on the screen as well. So let me go ahead without further delay and hand it over to our first panel member and have her introduce herself and talk a little bit about the all-important area of financial aid. Elizabeth?
Thanks, Toni. Hi, everyone. We're so excited you could join us today. My name is Elizabeth Walstrom Helgren, and I'm really eager to talk to you about financial aid. This is an area that normally warrants a lot of attention at this time of year, regardless of the current situation. And obviously, we want to give you some extra attention and answer your questions related to finances, given the COVID crisis as well. So on that note, I'm going to start with some of our response to COVID, and then I'm going to move into some of the common questions for this time of year so that you understand the next steps as well as the resources available to you at this time, depending on your individual family financial needs. So as Toni mentioned, the university has responded in so many ways to the current situation to support both current students as well as incoming students. And so I want you to be aware of how we're supporting incoming students, but also I think a lot of where the current student support lets you know how we're going to care for your student once they're here. It's something that we take really seriously in financial aid. And so I want to speak to that first. So the funds that Toni mentioned that we're working with advancement on, as well as the federal funds available, the options to utilize some work study funds in grants instead of work study, specifically have been things we're focused on in financial aid. The Hawks for Hawks Fund is a fund that we've had for several years now, and it allows us to support students in hardship. And so we hear from students on a regular basis, and we're really maximizing those funds to support students with increased needs for travel, housing, other medical related costs, so that we can support their retention at Illinois Tech during this time of need. Additionally, the Department of Education, via the funds allocated through Congress, have actually given us great opportunity to support students in new ways. And that includes our current students who may be struggling most immediately with their spring term. And additionally, then for our incoming class, we know there may be additional needs based on family financial changes, income fluctuation, or potentially job loss, unfortunately. And so we're really strategizing to support you all with those increased federal funds. And so some of that information is coming out rapidly from the Department of Education, and we're on it on a daily basis. We are working to obtain the necessary information to provide that support and extend those dollars as far as possible. So just know that we're very committed to that, to understanding how we can best serve you with the federal fund change in guidance and increased fund opportunities that we have. We are really working hands-on with our current students to assist them, help retain them, and hear their needs during this time. And so what we've done is really a whole host of support and outreach to students who might be in a situation like that. We have a hands-on team ready to assist with any needs from you all as well. So I know this is a little general. Finances tend to be something that, it's personal, and the specifics are, where the opportunity lands. And so just know that the financial aid team is ready to assist in those ways. And we have a whole process for if you have COVID related and or other income related needs. So I'm going to talk about that in a moment as we move into kind of just the next steps for this time of year and tips that I can offer you for, what needs to happen next in terms of finances. So this time of year is really where you're going to be looking at the award offer that the Office of Financial Aid has sent to you already. And you're going to be comparing that against any direct costs. So that you have an idea of what your out-of-pocket is going to be. So what you're going to do is take any of the free money and subtract that from the direct costs and look at what you're left with. So you have an idea of where you might want to be having your student borrow, perhaps a Stafford loan, where you might be assisting with a parent loan, and or then how you're going to supplement with any payment plans or other college savings plans. And right now, this month is really about that math. And so, looking at what are those costs, subtracting off any of the quote unquote free money, the scholarships and grants, and then looking at what you're left with, and then making a plan to finance that for your student and understand what the out-of-pocket's going to be, what any borrowing might look like, so that you as a family can enter this next phase, with full knowledge of, what those costs are going to be, so that those conversations are handled up front and avoid any confusion once your student joins us on campus later. The goal is really to have these financial conversations early so that we can assist students in all of the academic and fun that they'll have once they join us on campus. And so those are the next steps. What that might look like for you is going to depend on your individual family finances. If you are facing a situation right now where there's been an income fluctuation or something of the sort, I encourage you to connect with your admission counselor, and they can walk you through our appeal process, which is an integrated process between undergrad admissions and the financial aid office, so that we can best discern from a holistic perspective how we can support you financially based on whatever is going on. Additionally, then, you're welcome to reach out to financial aid or the undergraduate admissions counselor in order to break down those costs. If you're having any questions on that, we can go over a cost worksheet with you so you have an idea of what that out-of-pocket looks like. And the undergrad admission counselor can also do some cost comparison with any other schools that your student might be looking at as well. This will give you a really good idea of how to compare Illinois Tech to anywhere else. We want to be really transparent with those costs and any next steps that might be remaining for you with us, so that you understand the opportunity here, as well as the financial resources available to you. So in terms of next steps, those are it for April from financial aid, really understanding what those costs are so you can make an enrollment decision and submit that deposit. After that, then, if there's paperwork pending around documents needed to process federal aid, such as proof of citizenship, verification documents, which might include tax returns, other confirmation of who's in the household, you can submit all of those thereafter, and we'll go ahead and process them in financial aid in May and June, so that all of the money is ready to pay come the first day of class in August. So really, unless you need us to do those other forms of paperwork early so you can make the decision, there's no rush on them. We are happy to do them now, though, if needed. But right now, the goal is really to focus on, understanding those costs, asking the questions so you're ready to make a decision, and then later submitting any, required documentation to us. If you have questions about the documents requested on the student portal at this time, please reach out to the financial aid office. We're happy to walk you through those requirements, and if they are necessary, sooner than the post May 1 decision. So there are some other questions here around how the current situation might impact tuition and scholarships. And so I just want to take a moment to let you know how we handle tuition rates, as well as our scholarship philosophy at Illinois Tech. So tuition is approved by our Board of Trustees every year, and this is an annual process that is then published and communicated to both parents and students, usually in early February on an annual basis. So this process, this timeline won't change. The current tuition for the upcoming academic year has already been solidified, and so that won't be changing as a result of COVID. It is available in your financial aid award offer, as well as on the website at this time. So feel free to ask any questions you have to applicable staff in financial aid or undergrad if you need clarity on those rates, but they do stand as is at this point. And further, we'll continue the annual process for tuition and fee approval on that annual basis, like I said, with the communication in early February from our university leadership. Scholarships at Illinois Tech are offered for the 4 to 5 years the student may be joining us for their undergraduate degree, and if applicable, if the student decides to pursue a co-terminal degree, they will also apply for that timeline as well. So potentially 5 to 6 years, depending on the program. The scholarships maintain the same value for each year. They do not fluctuate. And furthermore, I wanted to share with you, and you might have heard this from Toni in prior events or other visits to campus prior to going completely virtual, that Illinois Tech is really committed to serving students with those scholarships, and we're not going to remove them if the student has, a rough start to their academic career or has a hard term and their GPA dips a little bit below what they might find ideal. And so on that note, I just want you to know that we're not going to remove scholarships based on that academic performance. We have a hands-on approach in financial aid to assist students who are struggling, connect them with academic advisors or our team in undergraduate academic affairs, so that the student can really get the support they need to be successful at Illinois Tech and obtain their degree. The last thing we want is for students to be facing an academic concern and then have a financial concern on top of that. So I just wanted to share that philosophy with you all. Our Vice President for Enrollment is very committed to that, and that is the approach we take. So if a student has a hard term, they can connect with us. We'll get them the resources they need to be successful, but they won't have to worry about that scholarship loss during that time. We've got another question here around the value that a parent could borrow in the parent loan and how that process works. And so I just wanted to share that for those of you interested in taking a parent loan on your student's behalf, that is a loan that would be borrowed in your name, and it would be taken based on the approval by the Department of Education through a credit check. And so the value approved is based on what we've been able to offer you in the financial aid offer. And you can see that, in the offer letter we sent or on the student portal. If there's concern over a student might want to take, if you want to take less, you can accept less on the portal, or if the student needs a little extra to pay for books or something else like that, that's something we can work with you on. The Department of Education's information about the credit check is on their website, which we've linked through the student portal information for that loan. So go ahead and check it out there, and then ask us if you have any questions. If by chance you're not approved for the full value you need, let us know, and we will go ahead and work with you on other options so that we can figure out how to fill the full cost, so that you know the options for your student to pay for any remaining costs there. So this is not a common issue we see, so I'm not trying to be dismissive of any concern here, but just know that this is not a common concern or for students at Illinois Tech. And so just reach out to us if you do have specific questions about how much you may be able to borrow, etc. So next steps, again, include breaking down that cost, connecting with the undergrad or financial aid staff, and then, helping those conversations inform your decision. And then from there, working with financial aid to submit any documentation so that we are ready to go for fall. And just know that we are here now through COVID, through this incoming appeal, needs that we might have now, as well as in the future. The financial aid team is really committed to the education that your students are trying to pursue, and that will apply now and then moving forward into the years to come. So thank you all. And on that note, I'm going to hand it over to Katie.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Katie Stetz. I am the Vice Provost for Student Affairs and Dean of Students. And one of the areas that I oversee is housing and residence life. And a lot surrounding our current situation, and just to kind of set the tone a little bit, as did Toni and Elizabeth. What we've done to support students related to our current issues is we've stayed open. So our residence halls have stayed open for our students who had nowhere else to go. You notice a lot of residence halls across the country have been closing, and where that each institution has to make the decisions that are best for that institution. We've decided that it was best for us to stay open to support not only our international students, which of course there are many, but there are people who just didn't have the opportunity or a place that they would rather be. That being said, a majority of our students have moved out and have gone home and are with their families. And so we have less than 400 students on campus at this point in time. But just so people know, our housing contract is still open and available. We encourage you to take a look at that. One of my tips that I'll filling out the housing contract as much as possible. I know it's hard sometimes to release that checkbox on your task list to get it done, because it may take a little bit longer for your 18-year-old to do that. But at the end, when we're matching roommates, and we're looking for the most accurate information, it coming directly from the student, it has, in my experience, been the most helpful. So there are questions on the housing contract that kind of ask about what are your study life is like, and are you a smoker? Do you stay up all night? Do you like to go to bed early? Do you like to just play games? And so we kind of match people up. The other way that we handle roommates is if your son or daughter know who they want to live with, they can request that person. We just ask that both parties request each other, that those requests match before we actually, just to make sure we're all set. So that's a little bit about roommates. The other thing I just want, from my vice provost point of view and dean of students, and this current place that we are in, we actually, in odd ways, we're kind of prepared for having the residence halls open during a time where quarantine isn't actually a common factor. We have been working, and Julia's on the call too and can talk more about our crisis response and our emergency planning. But we have monthly tables, and now we're living in the live crisis, so that we're going through the real exercises, which is the best practice. But what I've realized is that we've used the word quarantine for years. We've had a plan already set up if we needed to do that. And just to set your minds at ease, we have quarantined students on campus, but we have not quarantined anybody who actually was showing any signs of the virus. And so we don't have 6 students on this campus. We actually have ones that maybe came into contact with somebody who had a positive test, or when people came back from spring break, when they were coming from places of high instances, as we had publicized throughout spring break, we had asked all of them to self-quarantine. So above all, we had over about 22 students who returned who were quarantined for 14 weeks. And as time progresses, that number has gone down significantly, but things do pop up. So I think right now we have 4. But I will say that, again, we had a plan for it. We have a great, Chartwell's is a great partner with our food service. So they provide our meal plans for our students, and they're also providing direct support. We're delivering food to our students who are in quarantine, and we're offering them as much support and comfort as we can to stay at home. One of those things, Toni, you did mention, was the South Loop Hotel, and we are also using certain parts of our residence halls to do that as appropriate. Let's see. So, and then the questions are coming in, well, are we going to have the residence halls open in the summer and in the fall? And these are all very good questions, and all very, right now is we're not sure about anything, right? Every day something's changing. So what we do know right now is we are putting all courses, as many courses as we can get online, we're putting them online no matter what we do. The decision that we need to make is whether or not we're going to go live on campus. So our courses aren't going away. We want students to register for classes. We want to be here for students. And Patrick is also on the line for Campus Life, and we'll talk about a lot of the virtual programming that we're doing. And Toni talked a little bit about it. So we're taking student life still very seriously. And so I want to just assure you that we're normal as possible given circumstances. The goal would be, in all of our minds and at every level that I speak with at the university, we want to be open for fall. We definitely want to have our students on campus for fall. We want to use Kasich Hall, our brand new hall that is opening August 17th, which is the move-in date. So we want to see students in this space. So everything points to we are going to open August 17th. The unsure part is that we don't know about summer, but we're not going to close. Again, we will stay open for people who can't get into their state or city or country because the borders are closed. So we will take those things into consideration. We're not going to just kick people out. So just kind of, that's our I think, you know, I've worked at IIT for this, it'll be 20 years in July, no, 19 years in July. And what we try to do our best to do the right thing. And sometimes the right thing doesn't always seem like the most, you know, it's probably not what everybody else is doing, but we do it because it's right for us. And I've seen that success rate be really, really high. So let's see. I think I talked about all of those things. So a couple things, I talked about Kasich. Kasich is our new residence hall. SSV is our other residence hall that we're gonna focus for our first and second year students. We will hopefully have a mix of first and second year students in both Kasich and SSV, and then MSV as well. We are going to put preference for our first year students to be in Kasich and in SSV. And so when you fill out when your son or daughter fills out their housing contract, they will have the option of all three. SSV and Kasich actually have the same exact price, and MSV is our lower price, but we want to work with students to make sure that they get the new housing experience and a very similar housing experience. So we're going to work with them on whatever is best for the student. And if that's, you know, Kasich, we're going to work with you on that. If that, you know, so put your preference on there. Our hope is, and again, as things get extended, we're going to be very flexible throughout this process. But if we just want to have some semblance of stability, we're looking at hopefully getting as many room assignments completed by June 1st. That being said, we are not stopping there, and we're going to fill our halls, and we're going to make changes as needed. And we may even move that deadline, but right at this moment, that's kind of where we're working toward, that tentative deadline of June 1st, so we can kind of tell you who you're going to be living with, and you can get excited about that. All first and second year students are required to live on campus. Those who live within a 20-mile radius of the university can request a waiver, so you can hey, I'd rather, I am living at home with my family or guardian, and I live within 20 miles of the university, and we will review those. But those are that's the group of people that are allowed to stay at home with family within that 20-mile radius. The rest are expected to live on campus, and with living on campus comes a meal plan. And the unlimited meal plan is the meal plan that the first and second year students will be required to have. And that comes with the flexibility of using our retail venues as well as the main facility, our commons dining. So if you've been to campus, and I'm guessing many of you have, but we have an all you care to eat venue, which is a buffet, and there is variety upon variety. I eat there for lunch every day when I'm there, and I can tell you that there are plenty of vegetarian options. There's gluten-free options. There's halal. There's your typical pizza and grill. And there's soup. There's a fresh salad bar that has so many offerings that I think is really will help most students. And so obviously allergies and any other medical issues that need to be addressed, we are open to looking into those things too and working with you. Very rarely do we have to allow someone off the meal plan because we actually are able to accommodate a lot of things. That being said, we have been known to let people off the meal plan if we cannot accommodate. So we would work with you directly, and all that information is on the housing website. I think those are my biggest things. One question that was here that I think I haven't answered already is that for international or those who are coming from states that are not within driving distance, when you come on August 17th and you're dropping off your son or daughter, the question was, is there a place to stay nearby campus or on campus? And at that time, we won't have anything available for on campus, but we do have our South Loop Hotel, which is very close to campus. And I believe, and Toni, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe there's a list of hotels on our admissions website where you can go and look, and I believe there's an Illinois Tech discount.
Yes, absolutely. Make sure you check out our undergraduate admissions visit website and get that Illinois Tech discount. There are a couple of hotels that are really close by, depending on if you want to stay downtown in the Loop or you want to stay just like a few blocks from campus in some of the different hotels. But make sure that before you book that, you get that Illinois Tech discount rate.
Yeah, and so I think that wraps up my little spiel for you. So I hope that I answered your questions. And I do see one real quick. The residence halls are co-ed, and they're vary by floor. Some floors are single gender, some floors are suites and SSV they would all be single gender, but the floor might be co-ed. So we also have gender neutral housing options available. So I'm going to pass this along to our career services at this time. Thank you, everybody.
Katie, can I give you one question really quickly?
Yeah.
We had a few questions about athletics and what that might look like for the fall and what practice might look like if this continues on into the fall.
That's a really good question. We're watching all of these things daily. When we kind of see what the state and the city are doing, we'll be able to inform that question a lot better. I do anticipate, as I kind of said with housing, our life going back to whatever normal that we're going to get to will be closer to August than during the summer. So what that may look like for practices and for training will probably vary, and I do anticipate there'll be some schedule shifts, but we're going to look to the NCAA to kind of advise on that, and right now I haven't seen anything, but we will work with them, and hopefully the one thing is by this in all the same capacity. So that's one kind of good thing about this crisis is that we're all in it together. So we're not that different across the board. But I don't have a specific answer for that, except that we will announce it as soon as we know. And I'm hoping that when this April 30th of our stay-at-home order, at least the one that's in Illinois, kind of gets closer, we'll have a better idea of what that next deadline looks like and be able to inform our practice and policies from there. Anything else, Gavin, or we can move on to...
That's it for now. T can go ahead.
T? Great, thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, Katie. Well, it's great to meet everyone virtually. And my name is Nguyen, and I'm the Associate Vice Provost for Career Services. Um, I'll start with really kind of providing an overview of our services and what we provide, and then I'll talk about how we're really addressing COVID-19 as well. So we are a centralized career center, and really, our main focus is really helping students with the career planning process, and we do that in a lot of different ways. One is we bring in hundreds of companies in any given year to campus. So this year, at least up until a few weeks ago, we had close to 300 to 350 companies that really worked with us and recruited on campus. That happened through a number of activities. One is career fairs. So we host a number of career fairs throughout the academic year. Traditionally in the fall and spring semester, we have large scale career fairs. They're 2-day events. And they're really across the spectrum in terms of industry and sector. Certainly, majority of our companies are from the Chicago area because Chicago is such a large market. But we also have national reach as well. So we bring in companies from all over the country. And because of our profile and being in Chicago and where we're located, I think we're able to do that. And that's something we're really proud of. In addition to the large-scale career fairs, we've started to offer a number of niche career fairs as well that are really honed in on specific areas that students may have an interest in. So that's something else that we're really focused upon. One of the biggest areas is certainly helping students with the career planning process. So we have what we call career coaches that support students in their career development. So that can include a lot of things. It can focus upon making sure you have a really strong resume when you're applying for that internship or a full-time position. It can include tips on interviewing. It can certainly include a focus on job search strategies and so forth. But I think one of the things we're really proud of is because of the size of our institution, one of the things I like to say is we're not too big and we're not too small. So we're really able to bring in, those companies, but we're also able to provide that individual attention because we realize from a student perspective, every student has individual needs when it comes to career, and we recognize that, and that's something that we really want to support 100%. To talk a little bit about COVID-19 and really how we're addressing the need. Certainly, I will acknowledge that this is pretty unprecedented in terms of what's going on. So there's certainly not a playbook per se for how to do this. But we are very much in conversations with our colleagues from around the country at area universities and sharing best practices at this particular stage. A few of the things that we've done right away is, one of the things we've really tried to do is replicate the in-person experience for our students virtually. So we've moved to providing virtual schedule appointments for our students, which is something they used to be able to do. We've moved to virtual walk-in sessions as well and provided specific times because a real focus for us is making sure students have access as well to different positions and so forth. So that's been key. The other thing I want to address, is internships. Internships is certainly always something that students are thinking about, that parents are thinking about, and rightfully so. And certainly I think we always want to encourage parents to have conversations with students about engaging in internship opportunities. And typically I think most students are thinking about internships probably more so after their sophomore year or during their sophomore year is a little bit more realistic for most students. Certainly there could be some opportunities during freshman year as well, but traditionally, it's sophomore year. For this summer, we are very actively working with our employers right now. And to a certain extent, a lot of our employers are in a holding pattern when it comes to internships. And so we are encouraging remote opportunities for internships and for companies to really be able to pivot to offer those remote opportunities as well. In some cases, we may be working with companies to try to push back some start dates as well to kind of see where things end up. So internships is often, definitely front and center. The other thing, that I'm seeing here in terms of the questions is really related to student employment and work study. And one of the things we're really trying to do is working closely with our student employment office and offering opportunities. And we are planning actually to offer access to opportunities in a number of different ways. So one is our online platform is Handshake. And that's the platform that hosts both on-campus jobs, internships, and full-time career-related positions. So as indicated, they are actually all posted on Handshake. But one of the things we're really excited about as well in the fall is we're going to offer actually an on-campus job fair, where we're going to bring departments and so forth together on campus in terms of offering opportunities. A little bit on the corporate engagement side of things. So we certainly are very active, and we are still very active today, to this very day in terms of engaging with companies. So we work with so many different corporations and organizations, top 100, Fortune 100 type of corporations. Examples can include companies like Exelon, ITW, that's Illinois Tool Works. We work with large companies like Google, but we also work with mid-sized and startup companies as well, because we realize that students have a lot of different interests these days, and we're very active in working with those types of organizations as well. We also work very closely with our student orgs, who are very active in terms of engaging with companies, and we definitely promote that. So that's really key as well. In fact, one of our student groups in Tinium is hosting a pitch contest right now, where we're very actively involved in sponsoring that, because we want to promote things such as entrepreneurship, the idea of really putting forth creative ideas and project management. We think that's really important in terms of the career planning process. Access to opportunities really happens in a number of different ways. I think one platform that I mentioned earlier is Handshake. Over 75 or 80% of the top universities in the country utilize Handshake, and that's basically a platform to engage in a community, finding jobs and internships. So that's really one primary way that students can engage, and it really, again, for us, it's about access. The other program I really want to mention is Elevate. Elevate is really our focus on offering co-curricular opportunities to our students. And that can include curated internship opportunities, competitions, things such as hackathons, study abroad when that returns, and it will return. It's, as you probably know, it's not happening right now. Research opportunities, short courses, competitions. And so I think one of the things that universities do well is offer a lot of different opportunities. But one of the things that's often a challenge is making sure those opportunities are in a centralized place. And that's one of the things that Elevate does quite well. And we're definitely very, very proud of that. I do want to address a couple of questions here. I do see some questions about incoming students attend online internship meetings that are posted on our website. So these will be available. They're going to be recorded. So I'll make sure that there's a link that's available as well. In these particular cases, they're really going to be focused more on best practices and so forth, presenting yourself virtually, for example, in this current environment. So I'll pause there because I realize we have a couple other areas to get to, but I do know that jobs, internships are probably front and center in this environment. Definitely want to acknowledge it's a challenging environment right now, but we are 100% behind supporting the students in whatever way we can to ensure that they are successful.
T, just to jump in here, thanks so much for mentioning those opportunities. I wanted to make sure that people know on the website, specifically when you're mentioning around outcomes, ROI. So if you guys noticed, I was navigating to this part while T was speaking, but when you are on the Career Services website, it's everything T just mentioned about going virtual, but there's a Career Outcomes tab. And this really allows you to dig into the data of our students that have graduated and what that looked like in their first 6 months post-graduation. So you can come in here and you can sort by graduating year, you can sort by the college, the major, did they complete an internship, did they not complete an internship. So this is a really fun website to spend a little bit more time. And then you can see salaries, top employers, you can narrow down by geography. So some really cool stuff in here for you to maybe play around with a little bit later.
Yeah, thank you, Toni, for mentioning that. It's funny, I jotted it down and I didn't even mention it. So yeah, this is one of my big initiatives and I forgot to talk about it. So it is a big piece. I think we're one of the few schools in the country that are really being this transparent in terms of our outcomes. So we're really proud of it. As you can see, we have the top companies recruiting on campus, or in many cases, students are obtaining jobs with these top companies as well. So definitely, play around with the site. We are presenting new data all the time. So the next couple weeks, you'll see 2019 data up there as well. If you have questions about the class of 2019, but that should be up in a couple weeks as well. So thank you.
Great. Patrick, you want to take it away for Campus Life?
Absolutely. So hi, everyone. My name is Patrick Fina, and I'm the director of Campus Life. And Campus Life, to summarize it pretty quickly, we are the home for orientation programs, student organizations, fraternity and sorority life, and then large-scale campus programs. As far as student organizations go, we have actually 150. I think 153 is our current count, which is pretty incredible for a campus of our size. And they give you kind of a glimpse at how much they do on our campus. Annually, we do over 3,000 room reservations for them, with over 2,400 purchases on their behalf. So they are incredibly active on campus and really kind of make their own stories really come to life on campus in a really unique way that I think is so special about working here. For some bigger picture programs, just to kind of share with you all, some of the big things that you'd interact with Campus Life on is parents and supporters of students is obviously the Convocation, which kicks off our Welcome Week, which is a formal welcome to the university, our Homecoming and Family Weekend. And then another thing that you will probably find interesting is we are also home for a gamified first year experience program that we call Game of Hawks, where we put students into a bunch of different groups for friendly competition based around their commuter student association or their commuter student groups, as well as the individual floors within their residence halls. As we've been going through kind of the COVID-19 situation, we've actually gotten to do a lot of unique things that have been really fascinating and have given us kind of a new lens of how we can look at engagement with students. So as an office, we are offering remote advising for all of our student organizations. But really the fun things are we have about 3 or 4 different musicians we've worked with who are going to be doing private live streams directly to IIT. We have somebody we've worked with in the past who's going to somehow do virtual mind reading, which is going to be fascinating to see. Of course, we're going to ensure that we still have some mindfulness programs as we get towards finals. And then kind of the big highlights that I think are really unique and kind of show the unique culture we have on our campus is we are actually hosting a campus-wide esports tournament and bracket. It's across several different constituents across campus, which has been really cool to see. And outside of that, our students also partnered within the Student Government Association to create IIT's very own Minecraft server. And they actually showed it to me yesterday, and they have kind of created this, secondary campus almost, where they did a little walkthrough for me, and they have recreated the Student Center, the Tower, SR Crown Hall, and they are currently, as a group, virtually building the Kaplan Institute so that they can still visit some of their favorite buildings on campus. Our Student Government Association works super closely with Campus Life. We serve as kind of their main program advisors, and they have actually started an entire virtual campus tab on their website where they are tracking every single student organization event that's happening and really kind of trying to make sure that it's communicated out to as many folks as possible to join. And I know Toni mentioned it, but our president himself kicked off a 60-hour DJ set. And one of my favorite things is our Vice Provost for Student Affairs and Dean of Students might be continuing that tradition a little bit in the coming weeks. So some questions that came in that I'll try to be is embrace brevity. Some top tips for parents of admitted students. I think a really important thing is to support your student getting involved. Because building that network outside of the classroom really can kind of complement academics in a really, really great way. So what I always recommend is be really supportive of having them join an organization that's related to their field of study so that they're able to kind of network with upperclassmen who have maybe had those classes and have some really good insights to kind of help them as they're progressing towards their degree. And then one that's completely unrelated. So they kind of have a break from the academic coursework and they're re-engaging a different part of their brain. Another piece that I think is super unique that I always like to highlight is by getting involved in student organizations, there is a really, really rich potential for students to do some pretty incredible professional development. Annually, we sponsor between 150 and 170 student organization trips that typically focus on going to a national conference regarding an association or a profession. And oftentimes there's a lot of poster presentations and a lot of networking. And we work pretty closely with career services to make sure they know how to have a really good elevator pitch. As we're getting ready for summer, there's some questions about the contingency plan for summer orientation. And we actually have 3 different contingency plans. I've been working super closely with Dean Katherine Stetz to make sure that depending on whatever determinations are made towards the end of April, we'll be able to address it in a way that's supporting the safety and healthy of anyone who wants to visit our campus, while also ensuring we get all of the information that students need for orientation to them in kind of a timely fashion. There's a potential for some virtual ones, there's a potential for some hybrid programs, and I think we're going to have a lot more information in the coming weeks. If SOAR is happening and it is on campus, is it mandatory for a student to sleep on campus? I would say that for the SOAR program, we do have an overnight component, so they can kind of get a feel for what a residence hall would feel like. They can kind of get the understanding of what it would be like to have a roommate, even if only for a night. And so I would definitely encourage that. But if it's a student who's commuting, we do understand that they may want to return home. A fun question is regarding music at IIT. And so I know in the STEM fields, myself being a graduate in those, there are a lot of students who are musicians. And we have a really strong partnership with the Vandercook College of Music, which is actually hosted physically on our campus. And any Illinois Tech student is able to join an ensemble at Vandercook to kind of have that release through music. They have about 4 or 5 different ensembles that we've had students be a part of, and they are absolutely top notch. Final 2 questions. How likely it would be that required classes would fill up before a student is able to register at SOAR, and would it delay graduation? For required courses, we work really, really closely with undergraduate academic affairs to make sure that that would not happen. Some electives may be different depending on when a student chooses to register, and then also things may shift as AP credits roll in over the remainder of the summer. So depending on what SOAR session your student attends, I don't think that we would ever be in a situation where it would not make sure that they're on track to graduate. But they can always start proactively reaching out to their advisor, which can be found through their portal in advance if they have specific questions or really want to make sure that they get into something that they're interested in. And then kind of a fun question that there's some pretty good websites out there within Illinois Tech that this kind of addresses is how do you communicate with parents regarding student progress towards grades and attendance? So that's a little bit of issue that's kind of family to family. A lot of that is going to be governed by FERPA, which we need to make sure that we follow. There is a waiver for parents to kind of have a healthy discussion with their students and determine what the students and parents should be able to have access to. And we can set some things up within our own system so that there would be a parent portal where you could log in and see some information. But it would be a conversation that I would really encourage you to have with your student and start kind of talking about over the summer so that you both have a clear picture as to what communication you can and cannot expect to be released as August rolls around. And I want to make sure we leave plenty of time for our next campus partner. So if there's any questions, I know Toni and her team will send them to me and I will get you answers. So I'm going to pass the virtual mic over to Julia.
Hi everyone, my name is Julia Arnopp Burns and I'm Illinois Tech's Emergency Management Specialist. So that means I handle all things emergency planning as well as trainings for faculty, students, and staff, and creating exercises to help prepare us for any eventuality. We were pretty lucky that last year we did a measles exercise with leadership, and that really helped us kind of jump ahead on this COVID-19 situation. I also work really closely with our public safety department. So any campus safety related questions, I can take those. Also, since we're running out of time, if you have any questions for me, feel free to put them in the chat and I'll hang around and try to answer those as best as I can. I quickly want to say, I think the best thing that you can have your students do is take their IIT email address and go into their IIT alert account, which you can find at web.iit.edu/IIT alert, and have them sign into that with their IIT email and input their phone number in. That way they'll get emergency alerts, not just through their email, but also via text message, which I'm sure they're a lot more likely to check than they are their email. You guys can also sign up for it yourselves on that website. There is a space to sign up for people who do not have Illinois Tech email addresses, and that way you can stay up to date with what's happening on campus along with your students. I would also recommend that you have them download the Rave app from the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store. Either one is fine. depending on your type of phone. And when they download that app, all they have to do is put in their IIT email address and password, and it'll automatically populate all the information for our campus. It has some really great resources, like a button that'll let them call public safety by pressing call and then confirm. So it's really simple, as well as text messaging capability so that they're able to text with our public safety officers if they need something and don't feel comfortable speaking out loud. They can also set a safety timer, say 10 minutes. If they don't get to their destination and press arrived on the app, it'll notify whichever contact they choose. So it's really great if you're walking home late at night and just want that little extra layer of security. Our public safety officers also provide safety escorts, either via bike or car, depending on the destination. And we do have a shuttle on campus, not operating at the moment due to COVID-19, but when everything gets back up and running, it should be running again too. That will take students around in a radius around campus back to somewhere near their destination. We did have a question here about who handles, should there be a crime on campus and what safety on campus is like. I will say we do have the same issues that any campus in a large city will have. We don't stop anyone from coming onto campus. We're an open campus. But I will say that we almost have the problem of campus feeling too safe and students forgetting that it is an open campus and open to the public. So just staying aware of their surroundings, no face and phone, headphones too loud to be able to hear what's going on around them would be my biggest recommendations. Someone did specifically ask about whether public safety or CPD handle crime reports on campus. If the report's made to public safety, they'll handle it. If it's a large enough situation where CPD does need to be brought in, they'll do that as well. But students can also feel free to make a direct report to CPD if they'd like to, or have public safety help them facilitate that. With that, I think I'll hand it back to Toni. But again, if there are any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat and I'll answer.
Thanks so much, Julia, and everyone else. So parents and guardians and family members that we know are on the call with us. We know this is a lot of information, and once again, so many of you submitted questions ahead of time. I think we had almost 200 parents registered, and we've had around 160 in the room right now. So that's great, but I do want to reiterate that we will absolutely follow up with you individually if we didn't answer your question already in this time. And so most likely you'll hear from your admission counselor. They'll be reaching out to you. And so I did want to show you, if you want to proactively reach out to your admission counselor, that is fine as well. It's whomever is your student's admission counselor. So if you go to undergraduate admissions and go to the Meet Our Team, you can actually find out who the admission counselor is for your student if you don't know who it is already. So it lists right here by state, and then if you're located in Illinois, you can actually dig a little bit deeper to find out who your Illinois admission counselor is. So yeah, definitely we'll be back in touch to reach out with you with questions that we couldn't answer. And that's whether you pre-submitted that question in the form when you registered to attend today, or you chatted it right now. I think we've had around 50 chats come in. So we'll go back through, comb that. We know who you are and what you submitted. So we'll make sure to follow back up with you. And then I think this goes without saying, the easiest way to get a very quick responses is to go through your student's admission counselor. However, I know that every single person on this call right now is open and willing and accessible to you whenever you have questions. So just let us know if there's anything that we can do to support you through this time. And I imagine that we will be in touch a lot more in the weeks to come as we update you on what things are looking like for summer, for orientation. And then like Katie said earlier, all of the planning right now is that we are able to be online, but also in person for fall. And so the idea is that even if we're in a situation where we could start in person in fall, and we've certainly planned to, we still want to have online options available for students who weren't able to pivot that quickly, depending on whatever that timeline looks like. So we're running scenarios where essentially we'll be running online and in person at the same time, just depending on what that timeline looks like. So hopefully we answered all your questions. It's 1 o'clock, so I definitely want to be respectful of your time in case you have to hop on your next Zoom call of the day or whatever platform you're using for that. But thanks again, panel members, and also to everyone who joined us for this hour. Really appreciate it and hope to hear from you soon.
Thank you.